What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. As you guys know, I've been doing a lot of videos on this whole Tory Lanez thing. Some of you are enjoying it. You find it interesting. Others are like, who is Tory Lanez? Others are like, hey, move on to a different subject, right? But I want to say that subject, that assault on Tory Lanez has opened up like Pandora's box. That prison, Tehachapi, is so, the history of that joint, you know, I've tried touching on it a little bit here and there. But it's really the comment section that has me like, people from other states or people that have never been to prison are making comments that are so ridiculous that it blows my mind. It leaves me scratching my head, right? Somebody said the other day, or I think it was yesterday, that if the shoe was on the other foot and it was a Mexican that would have got hit, people wouldn't be saying what I'm saying in my video, right? And I don't know how many different ways I can say that's a PC yard. People are trying to push active politics and active living and active ways of doing things on a PC yard. People on those yards, they don't go based off of Southern or Northern or Crip or Blood, or they're all individuals and do whatever they want. And it seems like that's what people can't wrap their heads around. And so they're like, oh no, this whole entire race needs to get involved with that entire race. And when I hear about that, I'm like, if it would have been the other way around, people would have just been like, that vato got caught slipping, you know? Somebody said to me, stop capping that's not an EOP yard, and stop saying that, right? And I'm like, you know, these dudes that keep questioning what I'm saying, they must have those double letter numbers. You know, I have one letter. I had a J number. You got guys with Z damn near. And they're the ones trying to correct me about my prison experience. Let me break it down. There can be EOP dudes on a yard that's not an EOP yard. All they need is an EOP building, an EOP section. I talked about how when I got out of the SHU in 1999, I got out of the SHU in August 1999. I went back to B facility in Pelican Bay, B yard, GP yard, right? On B facility, on B yard in Pelican Bay, 1 and 2 block are PSU. That's the SHU for the EOPs. 3 building, B and C section was EOP. The guys that are done with their SHU and 1 and 2 block go to 3 block, either B and C section. A section was GP. 4 block was GP. 5, 6, 7, 8 were GP. It was a GP yard that housed EOP and PSU. PSU, obviously, that's a SHU, couldn't come out with us, but the EOPs did. On August 31st of 1999, an EOP inmate, a white EOP inmate, for no reason whatsoever other than he was a nut, slit the throat of a GP crip. The administration thought it's an EOP. Nothing's probably going to happen. And that was at breakfast in the chow hall. They ran first yard. At yard recall, all of the blacks on the yard rushed all of the whites on the yard. There was a few whites that got stabbed. There was, you know, some injuries. So when people tell me that's not an EOP yard, whoever said it was? But let me let you in on how in 1997, when I went through Tehachapi, I got there in 1997. I left in 1998. I never made it to the yard. I got told in orientation. I got off in Adseg on the yard. And then when they were going to try to move me from 4A to 4B, and they took my handcuffs off, there was a high value target right there in R&R. I pulled out a razor and I got busy. Whacked him right there in R&R while he was getting his package. I've told that story. I'm not telling this story to glamorize anything. There's nothing glamorous about it. But I'm telling you, that's the way it was. Now, while I was there, and this may give people a clearer picture, remember, they were sending active dudes to a trash yard, a junk yard, dudes that couldn't be around actives. That was their yard. 4A and 4B in Tehachapi were their yards, the only yards that were designated to them in the state of California. And the CDC would play games. Specific people they wanted to set up, they would send them to Tehachapi knowing they're going to either kill somebody, try to kill somebody, or get killed in the process of trying to kill somebody. If they didn't die in the process, then they got a shoe term, or more than likely would get validated and slammed down in Pelican Bay shoe for the rest of their prison term. CDC plays games. I heard a channel doubting what I had to say when I said this could have been a setup by the CDC. Some people just can't comprehend what other people are talking about. You know, you have to really lay it out for them, and it's amazing. But for anybody that thinks that when Tory Lanez, who's in there helping people allegedly, and says, if anything happens to me, I don't even need to say the rest. Obviously, he's feeling the threat. He's hearing the threat. Who is going to be threatened by him helping inmates? Not other inmates. They're not going to feel threatened by that. They're going to feel hopeful. The administration would feel threatened by it. But anyhow, when I said that dudes would go get sent to Tehachapi and, you know, maybe want to validate it. For those of you that don't know what a validation is, there's people that the state would gather. They only needed 3 items. They usually went for more. Usually they hit you with 5 of them in a packet because they know 1 or 2 might not stick, right? And they label you an associate or a member of one of the big 4 organizations behind the walls in California. If the validation is upheld, you are recognized by the state of California. You are put into the computer system, the feds, everybody has you on the system as an associate or a member of one of those groups. You get sent to Pelican Bay to rot and die. Now they let everybody out. So everybody that was validated is out. But this was the old pro. This is the 90s. All these dudes that came around in the 2000s and talking about what they talk about. It's cool. Talk about that. I talk about my life experience and my prison experience. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to describe to you. Give you a glimpse, like I always do, of how scandalous stuff is. Us getting sent down to Tehachapi in 1997 to flip the yard. Like I said, everybody caught a sticking. Everybody whacked somebody, right? So we wind up in Adseg. Some of us got told on and we got off in Adseg. But this was, again, a trash yard. That was their yard. We were infiltrating their yard and putting in work as much as we could. So because it was their yard, they were in Adseg. There's 3 sections, as always, A, B, and C. The trash was concentrated in B section. There was only 2 active Southerners that were unfortunately housed in there. And they made sure Tehachapi is not like all the other 180s where it's 1 tier. The tier is broken into 2 tiers that are not connected. It's weird. It's hard to describe, right? A and C section were where the majority of the Southerners were, the actives. Okay. But, of course, the junk was also an A and C, and things would get ugly. As a Southerner, when you see another Mexicano arrive and add seg, he may wind up on your side of the day room because, like I said, the section is broken into two on each side of the day room. Not like the regular 180 design prisons where it's one long tier and everybody can fish to each other. It's different. If you were on the other side of the day room, we'd fish to at shower time, right? Well, if a Mexicano came, if he was put in a cell by himself, then you have to reach out to him. So you'd fish down to him or you fish up to him. And you ask him who he is and where he came from, this and this and that. And you were doing what you were supposed to do, right? Well, if it turns out the dude is trash, he turns the kite in. And there you go. He's going to not only turn the kite in, but then he's going to go ahead as a piece of shit. He's going to add a bunch of extras on it and say that you're the shot caller and all kinds of stuff. And next thing you know, the cops with black badges are at your door. So we usually try to find dudes who were crash test dummies. I'm keeping it real with you. Who love the spotlight, who didn't see the big picture. And we would tell them, hey, whenever somebody new comes, you get at him. Now, if it's a new dude and he goes in the cell with trash, then obviously you don't reach out to him because he's where he belongs. It's when the guys would come in and they didn't have a cellie, and you have to reach out to him. I remember a particular situation. This dude came and he sent his lockup order. Now, this was somebody, he had been out there too long. There was a curfew on the yard. It was a 90-day curfew. He had been out there too long. But he was, claiming he was active. And, there were dudes that knew him. They were like, nah, I know him. He was waiting to do this. That's his bad for waiting. He's late and it'll catch up to him. But when he got there, he hollers out to a homie and he's like, hey, I'm going to make my line right now. Give me about 10 minutes. Boom. 10 minutes goes by and he's like, hey, Holmes, I got my linea. Let me shoot that. And what he's going to shoot is his 114D lockup order. It's a piece of paper that's going to say exactly why you're in that SIG. And he's going to share that with another homie, right? Well, this dummy, I didn't like him. This dummy, man. He sends his fishing line out. And he's fishing with another dude that I didn't really care for. And they have their line out there. Well, there was PCs, Mexican PCs in between their cells. Guess what happened, guys? Not hard to figure out, right? See, when you're fishing like that, if you're going to have to fish with trash in between you, normally you would make a post. It could be out of newspaper, whatever. And when you connect your line to that dude's line, he's going to throw the line out and you're going to want to look and make sure there's no lines attached. When there's not, you're going to put that post out there and that post will keep your line away from going directly in the gutter in front of the other cells. You can pretty much see the line all the way across. You put out your post, he puts out his post. It's going to be about a foot away from the doors, right? Well, these dummies didn't do that. They fished through the little gutter that's in front of all the cells. He shoots his paperwork out. The paperwork that he had was his lockup order as well as a 1030 form. That's a confidential information disclosure form, meaning somebody dropped information, somebody that they're not going to identify for them, but the information that the cops received was that this individual, his name was Pancho. I'm going to use his name because it's easier. I just won't say where he's from. The information that the PCs gave the cops was that Pancho was going to hit the cops. He had some cops targeted and he was getting a crew together and that he was going to whack the cops. And he puts the 1030 and the 114D lockup order on the same line, shoots them out, and he goes, there you go, Holmes. As they're pulling it, the PCs that were in between those two cells pulled the line in and cut it. Guess what they did? They read the kite. They read the 114D lockup order, and they read the 1030 for him. And they wrote on the back of the 1030 form a fake kite and signed it with his name because they knew who he was because he had been on the yard with them. And what they wrote was something along the lines of, damn, homie, they got me before I could get it done, but I'm going to try to send some homies to do it. They wrote a whole kite basically acting like they were Pancho, and that Pancho was reporting to the back, reporting to Ad Seg that he didn't accomplish his mission of whacking the cops and that he was going to get a crew together to continue down that mission for him on the yard. Do you get why I didn't like the guy? What an idiot. I told the story, I don't know if you guys have seen it, when I was in Pelican Bay and they put me in the cell with a homie he was also endorsed to go to Tehachapi with me. And this dude, he goes, hey, we could do a highlight together. We can hit somebody together. I was like, cool, as soon as we get there. And he was like, what do you mean? I said, yeah, as soon as we get there, we should take 2, at the most 3 yards, times we go to yard to figure out a target and whack him. He's like, no, I want to get a visit and get some dope. And I told him, the longer you're there, the more people learn your name. And that incident with Pancho was the exact reason. You had all these PC dudes that were watching him and they knew he was against them, and they're all going to make up stories about him. Why? Because he stayed out long enough for them to figure out who he was. So I'm telling this story just to show how scandalous them dudes are. And so when I hear these dudes talking about Whack 100 and all these other killers in the comments talking about there needs to be a war and retaliation, the guy that hit Tory Lanez has a horrible charge. He would get whacked by all of the active Mexicans that you guys are saying need to be rushed by active blacks. Ain't no motherfucker on any of them active yards scared to go to war. So everybody talking out here on social media, talking that rah-rah shit, the blacks ain't scared, the Mexicans ain't scared, the whites ain't scared, the others ain't scared, like nobody's scared, Holmes. But also, nobody's stupid. On all of those active yards, not one of them gives a fuck about Tory Lanez or the dude that whacked him. And I don't think you guys get that. I don't know how these other states are as far as their prison systems, but California is a different animal. It's a different type of beast. And while it's entertaining maybe for some to hear these dudes out here on social media talk about the stuff the way they're talking about it, it's basically a Hollywood script. It really is. Those of us who have really done serious time in California, we scratch our heads at Whack 100, he's been to prison, but it was so long ago and on a low level. And that's not to knock him, it's the reality. Whack 100 has never told a story about being in Pelican Bay, New Folsom, High Desert, Salinas Valley, Kern. The prisons that we understand are deadly prisons. You've never heard Whack 100 talk about those prisons, being involved in anything on those prisons, doing time in those prisons. That's not a knock. That's just he did his time wherever he was sent. And he's been out of the loop so long that for him to be screaming and yelling about what type of actions need to happen or reactions need to happen, that's just reckless. People need to listen to, and you don't got to just listen to me. I'm just one content creator. But make sure you're listening to content creators that were actually at these prisons. And listen to what they have to say about the likelihood of a retaliation over a guy that's on a PC yard. Ain't no active's going to react over that. That would be stupid. Prison is hard enough as it is. War is no fun. War is no fun on the streets between, different nations or in prisons between different factions. It ain't going to solve nothing. Gets a bunch of people hurt. Can get some people killed. And when the dust settles, everybody's in the same size cell. Your cell didn't get bigger. Your TV didn't get bigger. Your locker didn't get bigger. You didn't get a refrigerator. You didn't get to have an old lady because you didn't get nothing, but you lost a whole lot. It's my video for today, man. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them, man. I'm out of here.